Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, we're hopping into our final tier list for a little while. Well, actually, it's a lie. I think I got a PvP tier list in the works, but I know I've been sort of slamming you guys with tier lists at the moment, but I have gone away for the weekend, so I have scheduled these to sort of release. Plus, I've had a lot of people asking me like what free-to-play characters should be farming, so this is sort of the last of the tier list for the free-to-play units anyway. Before we head into that PvP tier list that'll probably come out after this. But before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out, obviously, to the OPTC tier list maker and the OPTC database for images provided. Both of their links will be in the description below. So if you do want to create your own tier list, go check them out. If you do need help building teams, go check out the database. It is easily the best place to do that. I do have them linked on my channel as well. If you go to my bio and stuff like that, you can find the links there as well. But I will link them in the description below. Before we begin this tier list as well today, just a reminder that this is my personal opinion, playing the game for a little while now, and in my opinion, what I believe to be some of the better treasure map characters that you should try and farm for or use your blue tickets for. At the end of the day, all of these units are good in their own way, especially treasure map characters. Like, they are always very, very good. But there are some that are better than others, and there are some that are a little bit more relevant than others as well. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're sort of going to put them on a sort of pedestal of where they sort of sit, and then like how they were when they first came out to compared to where they are sort of at now. So the first unit and the first treasure map unit that actually came out was treasure map Mayhawk. When this guy came out, he was very, very good, but nowadays he is not ever used, ever. I mean, you could probably use him for his wave clearing mechanic, but other than that, like, there's just units that do what he does better, to be honest. He deals 100 times his character's attack to all enemies, and if the captain is a slasher class, he's going to set the chain multiplier at 2.75 and doubles their slot effects on a 14-turn cooldown. So he's fairly okay, I guess, but like, slashers just have lots of better options. Big downside to this unit is his name is Mayhawk as well. But when this guy first came out, he was just absolutely destroying content, especially on a slasher team. Next unit, the second unit was Treasure Map Whitebeard. Treasure Map Whitebeard is actually very useful, especially with his limit break key. He goes down to a 12-turn cooldown. He can do 100 times his attack in non-type damage to all enemies, ignoring defensive effects. And if the enemy has immunity to delay or status effects, he doubles crew's slot effects. And if the enemy has a barrier, he boosts his attack by 2.25 for 1 turn. He also changes his slot to int, so he can be very, very strong as a wave clearing mechanic. He's very, very good on Treasure Map. He goes on a low cooldown with the Treasure Map key mechanic. He's an orb booster. He can boost his own attack. He can be very good at sort of just destroying a single turn. But in saying that, without his key, he probably sits down here in the useful tier. So we're going to rank them basically on their like most commonly used, I feel, is probably the best. And without the treasure map key mechanic, he's probably down here in useful. But I actually use him quite a lot, so I would put him in the very useful. I do have him limit break keyed though. So it's up to you wherever you want to sit him. But for me, I'm going to put him in very, very useful. The next unit we have is Cavendish. So this Cavendish came out around Christmas. This Cavendish is never used. Like, he's a driven booster to start with. So that sort of like lets him down, as drivens just sort of suck. He boosts driven characters' attack and slot effects by 1.75, changes crew's unfavorable slots to matching, and then heals 1,224 HP. He also removes all beneficial effects, so I guess you could probably put him in pretty niche, as that effect can be very, very good, but you never use him, to be honest. Like, he's just never used, so it is what it is. The next unit is Gear 4 Luffy. This Gear 4 Luffy was so hyped when he first came out. The downside to him nowadays, obviously his name is Luffy, but in saying that, because he's a Luffy character, you can put a lot of very good supports on him. He changes all slots, including block slots, which is very, very good, randomly. Changes his own slot to quick, deals 300 times his attack in non-type damage to one enemy, and then greatly boosts the type effects of normal attacks to the crew. So he's a rainbow color affinity booster, which is very, very good. He's a free spirit powerhouse, which are both all very, very good, very, very good types. But the downside to him is he's a color affinity booster. Like, color affinity boosters are good when you can use the color affinity, but otherwise it's just sort of meh, and it can backfire on you too, especially because he's a rainbow color affinity booster. If you stuff up your attack pattern or something like that, it can bite you in the butt. Next is Treasure Map Ace. This guy actually got a huge buff with the release of Odin, actually. But again, he's sort of not really like used all that often. He changes all slots, including block, to strength, he boosts Strength, Quick, and Side characters attack by 1.75, and if the captain is Free Spirit, makes Strength, Quick, and Side characters slot effects have matching to slots for 1 turn. So he's pretty handy to have, but if you have Odin, like, he's very useful. Like, you could easily use him on a Odin team to get the attack buff. Odin provides the orbs, and with that, getting a full board of Strength orbs, you can actually make a full board of 1 orbs. So Treasure Map Ace has just got a huge buff with Odin's release, especially because he's a Free Spirit too. He's on an 11 turn cooldown. He has slot barrier removal. He's very, very good. So we're going to put him in the middle. I'm going to meet you halfway. So he's handy to have, but if you've got Odin, he's very useful. So let's just put him in the useful tier. He's a very, very good captain as well, though. He's a 3.44 times captain when you have strength slots. When you don't have strength slots, he's a 2.75. So he's quite old now, but for quite an old unit, he can still be very, very viable. Next, we have Sabo. This Sabo was a conditional booster if your captain is a Cerebral. I'm pretty sure he's a 1.75 to defense down, and he drastically reduces defense. And then, doesn't he have some sort of slot? Yeah, he changes Cerebral characters' type slots to their own. So he has some pretty good slot manipulation, and he's a self-proccing conditional booster. He's very handy to have. You do obviously need your captain to be Cerebral to get that off, and you obviously need them to not be immune to defense down as well. So that's something to note as well. The next unit we have is Zoro Sanji, the original Zoro Sanji dual unit. They are a 2.25 times type slot booster for Dex and Psi units. They also do a little bit of damage through defensive effects. And with their limit break key, they actually go down to a 12 turn cooldown. They also make T&D orbs matching with their crewmate ability. And with their switch ability, they boost the chain multiplier by 0.5. They also change Dex and Psi character slots randomly. So they're actually fairly decent. They're very handy to have. I actually used them on a V3 Boa team to get the orb buff, as well as like orb manipulation on the Doffy 2 stage. So they're very handy to have, but they're not like used very often, to be honest. So they're better than Niche, but they're not like very useful. You don't usually like slap them on a team all the time, but 2.25 orb boost is very, very handy to have. Next is Kazar. Straight away, Kazar is just never used. He never has been used. He was never good, even on his release. He came out to sort of support Legend Nami from the Tankman sort of batch, but he reduces enemies' HP by 20% and boosts the attack by 1.75 for 3 turns for the characters with the same type as the captain, and then locks their slots. So he's very like, the whole idea with him is you run 2 Namis on a full Dex team, and then you get the 3 turns of attack buff. Use the Nami special on 1 turn for the orbs and the color affinity, and then yeah. You get the idea where I'm going with this, but at the end of the day, even on release, he was never good. Ever good. Next is Big Mom. This one has to be one of the best treasure map units in the game. Like, she's so freaking good. And if you have a key, I would definitely limit break key her, as she goes down to a 10-turn cooldown. She can't be blown away. She makes recovery slots for herself have matching slot effects. Her special removes all beneficial effects. So she's just like a way better version of using Cavendish. That's why there's just never any use to buy this Cavendish. Reduces all beneficial effects, changes all slots including block slots to G slots, and then boosts crew slot effects by 3 times for 1 turn. Slightly boosts the attack and type effects of normal attacks for 1 turn. So what you can actually do with this unit is she just basically gives you like I think it's when it's a slight attack and color affinity booster, I think it's like 1.3. It basically equivalates to like a 2 times attack with the 3 times orb boost, obviously. A 2 times attack, a 2 times orbs, and a 2 times color affinity if you have matching slots. So what you can actually do is you can turn those G slots into matching if you use someone like the Rare Recruit Cracker, or you can use like a super typing of Roger, someone that just has orb manipulation, and that way you can actually get that 3 times orb boost to like proc without any issues. So really, really cool ability. She's very, very good even if you don't change those G orbs. She's very good on free-to-play teams. She's just very, very good at beating hard content as well. The next is Croc. Croc is pretty niche, to be honest. Honestly, he's really never used anymore. But I'm going to put him in the pretty niche category because he has a special ability where he becomes the captain for 1 turn when you use his special, and he doubles his own attack. So he can be used to sort of just like blow away a boss stage. But at the same time, like, there's just so many better options. When he does become a captain, he boosts the attack by 4 times, and he makes strength, dex, and int orbs matching. The idea of this, guys, he came out with V1 Katakuri, and the idea of this was when you became captain with V1 Katakuri, you had another V1 Katakuri, so you had every orb matching, he had a 2x attack, you could do a buttload of damage, and then Katakuri would delay. Nowadays, like, that is very niche, and, like, it's just never used. But at the same time, like, it can still be used, you know? Like, it can still do work, as V1 Katakuri is still an amazing unit. The next is Jack. Jack is very useful. Very, very useful. He reduces all defense up, damage reduction, and nullified damage by 2 turns. One of the only characters that can remove nullified damage, but unfortunately it is only for 2 turns. And then he deals heavy non-type damage that ignores all defensive effects depending on how many enemies are present. So if there's 1 enemy, he does 300,000. If there are 6, he does 2 million. So he can just, like, kill a unit, and he has very good utility as well. So he's pretty good. I definitely use some blue tickets on him if you haven't done all of the units in the very top tier. Next is Enel. Enel is incredible. Enel's amazing for speed farming, just absolutely insanely good for speed farming. Mainly for this big reason. His special does 565,600 damage to all enemies and lock slots, which is very, very good. It's just a fixed damage. With his key, he goes down to 13 turns. But the reason this guy is so good, he has a crewmate ability that if another unit uses a special, he gets 5 turns of cooldown, which is just insanely godly. That way, like, you use 3 other specials and you can use his special again. For turtle farming, this guy's an absolute beast. XP farming, he's an absolute beast. Just running all, like, very easy content that you would need to get through in seconds. This guy's always on the team, so definitely get him done. But there is another treasure map unit that isn't out now that actually does this better. So I would focus on him first, but having the character I'm talking about and Enel on the same team makes life so much easier. The next unit is Shanks, and you know me, Shanks is my boy. He's going straight in to use those tickets ASAP. ASAP. With his key, he goes down to 6 turns, and he has double special activation. Now, honestly, he's honestly just very useful, to be honest. He does tap timing bonus 60 times his attack for 1 turn, but he also changes all slots randomly, including block slots. But before he does that, he actually increases the chances of landing on matching slots. So you can basically get a matching, like a full border orbs with this guy through block slots. And if you don't, you can use it again to make sure that you do. He also reduces burn and barriers by 1 turn. So the fact that he removes barriers, I sort of want to put him up here, as there's not a lot of free-to-play units that can do that. 2 turns of barrier removal is very, very good. Or if you only need 1 turn of barrier removal, you can hang on to his special to use it at another day. So me being biased, I'm going to put Shanks here. It is my tier list at the end of the day, so I can't do my boy dirty like that, and I would love for him to be at the front. That would be excellent. That would just be hunky dory's tier list. That would be hunky dory. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I got angry at you, tier list. All right, Boa. Boa's the next unit. So Boa had to do with shooters when she first came out, and she was sort of designed for Beej, the release of Legend Capone. She's actually fairly good. She drastically reduces all enemies' defense for 1 turn, reduces the threshold, auto heal, and extra attack, and resilience by 2 turns, heals 10,000, and changes captain's empty slots into int slots. Then she locks the captain's slot for 1 turn, and if the captain's slot is int, she boosts damage dealt to defense down enemies by 1.75, and changes character slot to Psi. And if the captain's slot is Psi, doubles shooter character's slot effects for 1 turn, and changes the captain's slot to int. So there's a lot going on with her special, but the idea of this unit is she has double specials. So if your captain has an int slot, which Beej would, as he is an int unit, you could use her special to drastically reduce defense, get the resilience removal and the healing, and then basically proc her special again to self-proc the conditional. She's pretty niche, to be honest. She only works in very specific situations, and because she only works for shooter characters, it really is like, you know, it's not amazing. All right, the next treasure map unit is Law. Law's actually very useful, very, very useful. Mainly because his name's Law. Like, he can use Corazon supports, he can use Sengoku supports, he can use very, very good supports. He does 30 times his attack to 1 enemy, and he reduces Bind and Despair by 2 turns. He changes adjacent slots to character's own slot. Changes character slots to adjacent. Oh my god. Changes character slot and adjacent slots to character's own type. So his own and the characters that are adjacent to him are going to get changed to matching orbs. He adds 0.7 to the chain multiplier and reduces fighter, slasher, cerebral, and free spirit character special charge by 1 turn. So this guy came out around the time that Carrot came out, and this guy was an absolute goat for Carrot. He has the limit break where you start with his special, which is really, really good. Because he gives cooldown, he works really, really well. He reduces his own special reverse by 2 turns as well, so you can actually like proc that if you get like special reversed as your cooldown. He's very, very good. Very, very good. Next is Nami. Nami is definitely a finish her now kind of unit. She's so handy in garbage challenges and stuff like that it's actually not even funny. She removes burn, she removes attack down, paralysis, removes sound effects, by decrease the chain multiply growth and lock by 3 turns. She changes block and unfavorable slots to her matching types. For like hard content, she's like one of the go-tos. And the fact her name's Nami is that she can use so many good supports. Like, so many good supports. You got Konish, you got Carrot, you've got a lot of the like Sanji units that just work amazingly with this gal. So she's really, really good. She's great for the Garbs challenges, for the side variations. She's amazing for the Zero Stamina event that's out at the moment. She's incredible. Definitely get her done, as she is just amazing for hard content. And if you're struggling with hard content, definitely finish her up. She reduces her own special bind by 3 turns as well, and makes it in slots matching, so she doesn't have a bad slot. But unfortunately, she like doesn't actually remove special bind on her special. So, I mean, it is what it is. But the fact that you can still actually use her special, even if you get special bind, is kind of nice. All right, next we have Kaido. So Kaido, honestly, is probably like the worst. So he's just never used. Kaido, I don't know what they're doing with Kaido, man. Like, they just don't give Kaido respect. Besides Big Mom Kaido, but like, you could argue that half of that's Big Mom. He reduces one enemy's HP by 20%, ignoring all defensive effects. Removes all beneficial effects based on the crew, and boosts his own attack by 3.25, and boosts crew slot effects for the number of turns equal to the number of recovery slots consumed during the quest, maximum of 6 turns. So, he boosts his own attack by 3.25 up to 6 turns, which can be very, very good, but it sort of rules out the fact that you can actually use an attack buff. So this is why he's actually never used. You could definitely use him in niche situations, but like there aren't many times where you would actually use that. And the fact you have to actually eat recovery slots for that to be effective is what it is, I guess. He boosts the crew slot effects for the number of turns equal to the number of recovery. So I think he does an orb boost as well, I think. But I think it's just like a 1.5 times orb boost. I think I have to check that. But even still, like, it's still never used. And even if it is, it's pretty niche at best. So I never use this Kaido. I never have. I'm going to slap him in the not ever used here. Alright, next we have Doffy. Again, this Doffy is very similar to the Kaido in the way that he's sort of not really used. But he definitely can be. And I have actually used this Doffy before. So I'm going to slap him in the pretty niche tier. Why does that happen? Why can't you just go to the front of the tier list? Thank you. He completely removes crew's recovery down, so that is very niche in itself. He reduces damage by 80% for 2 turns, and if the captain is driven, he changes driven character slots to block slots and to carry their own type. So he's very, very niche. I did use him for my free-to-play quick team. He can definitely be used. When you need that recovery down removal, he's amazing. You could definitely use him for the Lore Forest if you guys are struggling with that as free-to-play players or new players. But in saying that as well, like, I've never used him for anything else besides that. So I'm going to slap him in the pretty niche tier as, yeah. He has uses, but not a lot. Next is Smoothie and Oven, the dual unit. These guys are actually fairly decent and very handy to have. They slightly boost crew's chance of landing on quick and... Actually, you know what? I'm going to slap him in useful because I just remembered something and I'm going to talk about it in a second. They slightly boost crew's chance of landing on quick and Sai, and then doubles quick Sai and in-character slot effects for 2 turns and becomes Smoothie and Oven for 2 turns. Now, the reason I'm putting them in useful and not handy to have is actually because of their switch ability. Their switch ability makes quick Sai and in-characters quick and Sai slots have matching slot effects, and then deals 20 times their attack as end-of-turn damage. So the reason that this is actually good is you can actually get around resilience buffs with this. The fact that a character has a resilience that just can't be killed by normal attacks, this can actually kill them at the end of turn. But in saying that, like, it is still fairly niche, but I have used this guy, like this unit, on a lot of free-to-play teams. Even as a captain, they can be very, very decent because they boost 3 different colors. So their switch ability is fairly nice, and that is really the big reason they're there. They are the Sai variation too, which Sai is very, very good. So, yeah. Alright, next we have Weevil. Edward Weevil. Edward Weevil is very useful. Very, very useful. I don't know if he's, like, finished him now, but, like, he's definitely very useful. He reduces crew's attack down by 20 turns, which is absurd. I don't understand why it's 20 turns. It's insanely high. And then he adds 300 times his attack in non-type damage on top of tap timing bonuses for 2 turns. But that's only on himself. And if the enemy is immune to delay or status effect, he doubles the crew's attack for 1 turn. Honestly, I kind of want to put him up here in the get those blue tickets done ASAP. He's a 2 times attack booster, which is very, very good for a free-to-play unit. And because of that, like it's pretty common that you do see delay and status effects, and the attack down removal is really nice too. So I'm gonna chuck him up here. Actually, yeah, I think he deserves to be in the get those blue tickets ASAP, as the attack down debuff is really, really good. Next we have Shanks and Ben Beckman. Shanks and Ben Beckman, as much as it hates me to put them here, they're pretty niche. Honestly, they're pretty niche. And the reason that they're actually pretty niche is because you can only use their special in the turn. Now, that can work really, really well for, like, clearing, like, just like a boss stage or something like that. What they do is they change all slots to empty slots, including blocks. So that can be effective. They boost the type effects of normal attacks by crew by 3 times to set the chain multiplier for 3 times. And if this special has been launched, this special cannot not be launched in the same turn as any other special. So that is their big downside, the fact they can't use any other special. I hate that mechanic so much. But they do have the remove sound effects by 5 turns. And they also have reduces crew's special bind duration by... character special bind by 5 turns. That is really, really good. And their switch ability removes bind, despair, and paralysis duration by 1 turn. Honestly, I'm going to actually put them in handy to have. And the reason I'm going to change that and put them in handy to have is because if you use them with, like, someone that can make can make, rainbow orbs, or Wano orbs, or Selma orbs, this guy can actually work really, really well. They work really well on a kid team, because you can use their special when you already have the Super Bomb orbs, if you lock them somehow, and then on the following turn you can use them. So, they're pretty handy to have. I have seen, that you can do forests, like, the kid can clear the, Hawkins forest and stuff with this unit. And with that orb, like, lock mechanic, that actually can work in your favor. Say, for example, you have, like, a full board of orbs, and they're locked through that perfect hit barrier, like, sort of thing. You can use these guys special for a 3 times color affinity and a 3 times chain lock. So, their switch ability is insanely good. So, I think putting them in handy to have is actually fairly decent. Purely for that effect where they can remove sound effects. Their switch ability is very, very good. They're a Shanks unit, I guess. So, I mean, bias is kicking in too, but... You know what I'm saying. They're very, very good. They're good, but, like, you just don't really use them that often, to be honest. Alright, speaking of a unit you never used, Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci's going straight into not ever used. Rob Lucci was never used. Actually, I think I used him once, like, 1 time. Besides, obviously, on Treasure Map, but, like, he's pretty niche, but, like, you never use him, man. Like, you just never use him. So, we're gonna slap him down here in the never used section, because that's where he belongs. He reduces one enemy's HP by 20% if HP is full, locks crew slots for 1 turn, and doubles cerebral character slot effects for 3 turns. So you need full HP to get his special, otherwise he uses 20% HP cut. And because of that, no one ever uses him. When you can get that off with a double cerebral slot effects for 3 turns, it's great. But, like, just absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. No. Next is Akainu and Fuji. Now, these guys are actually really, really good, especially on a bullet team, to be honest. Their switch ability gives a 1.5 times orb boost to 3 colors, Strength, Dex, and Int. And for that, I'm actually going to put them in the useful category. I'd honestly, like, argue that they're probably very useful. Actually, I think I'm going to put them in very useful, purely because of what they can do to garbs challenges and stuff like that. Their special defeats all enemies with current HP of 120 times their attack or less, changes all slots to Strength and Int, and reduces all enemies' HP by 20% at the end of the turn. Now, that's not a great special ability, but they do have that switch ability, as I mentioned, that gives a 1.5 times orb boost to those 3 colors, and they reduce all enemies' HP by 7% at the end of the turn. So, very similar to the switch ability of Smoothie and Oven, they can actually do the resilience thing as well. But the fact that you can get a 1.5 times orb boost every single turn on, like, a bullet team especially, makes them so much more viable than Smoothie and Oven. A big upside to this unit as well is they actually have a crewmate ability that when another Strength, Dex, or Int character uses a special, they get 4 turns of cooldown, and I actually use them to farm turtles because with their limit break key, they go down to 13 turns, which means that when you use 3 specials, you're basically 1 turn off. You go to the final stage, they have an interrupt, and then you can just use their special again. So they're really, really good. And at the start of the quest, when you have your cooldowns, you just basically need to use 3 other specials of those colors, and you can actually use their special. Very, very good at like wiping the final stage of the turtle farm. If you're looking for another very good unit to turtle farm with, and a very, very good unit for both the int and the strength garbs challenges, like those easy ones I'm talking about. So they're very useful, and I've used them quite a lot. So I think they're better than the useful tier, but they're definitely not like you need to max them right now. All right, Smoker. Smoker is Smoker's a tough one, actually, because he's actually a fair decent unit. He just doesn't see that much play. He does 100 times his attack in non-type damage to one enemy, doubles fighter and driven character slot effects. And if the captain is a fighter or driven, he boosts the chain multiplier by 0.7. He's pretty niche, to be honest, but he's also handy to have. I mean, if you don't have Legend Smoker, like, this is the next best Smoker in the game. He does have a very nice support that does 11% attack to, like, Law, any of the units from Stampede. Law, Luffy, Buggy, Boa, and Sabo. So, he's not amazing, but he is handy to have. I mean, fighters and drivens aren't exactly the greatest, like, teams in the game, but the fact that you only need your captain to be a fighter or driven is very, very good. You can use him on, like, a, what's it called? A sugar team for that 0.7 buff, like on a previous stage, and then turn into bears and stuff, and then save the super typing for the next stage. So he's definitely usable, but like I wouldn't say he's useful. So definitely handy to have. We'll leave him in the handy to have tier for now. I think that's a very good spot for Smoker. Next we have Blackbeard. This Blackbeard's a really interesting one because I've actually cleared quite a bit of content with this particular Blackbeard. He's actually very, very good. He doubles int characters' attack and slot effects for 1 turn, reduces their special charge by 1 turn, cancels all attack reducing slot effects for int characters for 1 turn, but if 2 or more specials have been used, he can't use his special. So you can basically only use his special. No, sorry, his special and one other. So, like, at the end of the day, it's not amazing. It's very similar to the Shanks and Ben Beckman issue, and for that, I'm going to put him in the same category as Ben Beckman and Shanks. He's handy to have. Doubling int characters' attack and slot effects for 1 turn and reducing their cooldown is actually really, really strong. So, honestly, like, he's probably better than Shanks and Ben Beckman, but the downside to this unit is his name's Blackbeard, and if you have V2 Blackbeard, the super typing, you're never running this unit. Ever. So, he's handy to have. Definitely handy to have. Especially if you don't have V3 Blackbeard, you could definitely say he's probably useful for int teams. But because of the reason that there is just a better version of him out, I would just say he's handy to have for now. I definitely did use him as my free-to-play unit to run the free-to-play events, as he does a 4 times attack to int and reduces crew's special reverse by 2 times, which is really, really cool. But he does take extra damage, 1.25 times damage, as Blackbeards normally do. So, not a bad unit, but just not a exceptionally good unit. Alright, next unit we're looking at is Hawkins. Hawkins is pretty niche, but in saying that, besides Legend Hawkins, he's probably the best Hawkins in the entire game. So he changes... I've actually used this Hawkins before too, on my free-to-play runs as well. He changes crew's slots to character's own type. When special is launched, if the HP of the enemy with the highest max HP is 70% or above, delays all enemies for 1 turn. And if the HP of the enemy with the highest max HP is below 70%, he delays all enemies for 1 turn, ignoring immunity or delay status effects. So it's very rare you're actually going to get that off. But changing crew's slot types to their own type, just like a rainbow slot removal, is very good. The downside is he is on 15 turn cooldown, which is very high. And he has a 7 turn cooldown that changes adjacent slots to character's own type and then just delays all enemies. So he's pretty niche. When you can use him, he can work very, very well. But there's just very, very, very limited situations that you actually can use him. Alright, the next one is the second... Well, the second of the Namis that are treasure map units. Now, this unit is just never used. Straight up never used. Mainly because, again, she was built for shooters. She came out around the time of Halloween Ace, and for like how good Halloween Ace was, this unit was just not that good. She deals 200,000 damage to all enemies. If the captain is shooter class, boost the type effects of normal attacks for the crew by 1.75. And if the crew lands 3 perfect strikes in that turn, doubles the type effects of normal attacks for the crew on the next turn. So, she definitely can be used and is pretty niche because it's only if your captain is a shooter that she boosts the normal attacks for your crew by 1.75. So if if your captain is a shooter, you definitely can use her, but the problem is, like, no one runs shooters, and when you do have that ability to run shooters, or you have, say you're running, like, hypothetically, you're running, like, well, V3 kind of, you can't say, because, like, she's an in unit, right? Okay, say every time you're running V2 Akainu back in the day, you could definitely use her to get color affinity for your entire crew, just in case you had red units, and then that way you could actually have color affinity with your red and your int units. Or, for example, if you're running, what do you call him? Dex Sabo. If you're running Dex Sabo, who is a shooter, you could use her for your color affinity, and that way you could run a full rainbow team of, like, fighters and free spirits and this Nami, and it could work. But, again, she's just never used. Never used. It's not that she's bad, it's just that shooters aren't that prevalent, and no one really thinks of them, and because of that, no one really runs that Nami. Or no one ever runs that Nami, I should say. Alright, the next unit is Orobi, and I'm going to slap Orobi straight up into get her done ASAP. She's an exceptionally good unit. She reduces paralysis bind, special bind by 3 turns, reduces all enemies' damage reduction and threshold by 3 turns, and if your HP is above 50%, she nullifies all damage from strength and desire. Absolute amazing utility for both defense and on yourself. She has the crewmate ability where she reduces special bind on herself for 3 turns as well, which is very, very strong. And because she's a Robin unit, you can actually use the Bardo support to get an extra 3 turns of paralysis. You can also use the Straw Hats as well on her for an extra 2 turns of bind, despair, and paralysis removal as well. So she's got a lot of access to a lot of very, very good sums, and she's very, very useful. I use her a lot, not only on my free-to-play teams, but also on my pay-to-play teams as well. So another unit I would definitely get done. Alright, on to the next unit now. We have X-Drake. X-Drake's a funny one, because X-Drake on paper sounds very, very good. On a 14-turn cooldown, he changes crew's unfavorable slots to character's own type, reduces the duration of all enemy barriers, and deals non-type damage to one enemy based on the number of strength, dex, and quick slots used in normal attacks before the special is launched. So, basically, he reduces the duration of all enemies' barriers by 1, which sort of sucks. But it's not bad. He reduces crew's unfavorable slots to matching slots, and depending on how many strength decks and quick slots you've eaten throughout the run, he can do up to 2.5 million damage to one enemy. And because of that, he's just not ever used. Like, it's a lot of damage if you eat 25 slots, 2.5 mil, but barriers absolutely cut, like, well, he reduces barriers by 1 turn, but if they have more than 1 turn barrier, it just absolutely cucks him. Defensive effects cuck him, threshold cucks him, normal attacks only cuck him. He's just, and the fact you need to eat a whole bunch. His barrier removal is great, but when you've got this guy, like, you just 100% would do Shanks over using this, this X-Drake. So, look, it is what it is. X-Drake doesn't really get too much love in this game, and Treasure Map X-Drake is no exception. The next unit is Rebecca and Viola. Rebecca and Viola are actually very, very good. They're very, very useful. I'm going to slap them straight up in the very, very useful tier, as I do use them quite a bit. They set the chain multiplier based on the number of enemies present, 3 times for 1 to 2 enemies, 3.25 for 3 to 5, and 3.5 times if there are 6 enemies. But they also remove burn and special bind duration by 5 turns and then become Rebecca and Viola. These guys are actually insanely good for V2 Blackbeard teams, as with their switch ability, they display enemy status and changes empty orbs slots randomly, and then heals 5% of the crew's maximum HP. So they were designed for the whole Nami Robin legend, but they just work exceptionally well for V2 Blackbeard teams, as the 5% of maximum crew's HP is insane, as Blackbeard has that 1.5 times HP buff. So they're very, very good. They also have the crewmate ability that reduces special bomb by 3 turns. Unfortunately, it's only 3 turns, and they remove it by 5. I don't know why they did that. They should have made it 5 turns, and that's why I'm putting them very useful, not like get them done ASAP. But they also boost dex and in-character stats as well. They have slot bind removal and critical hit. They are a very, very good unit, and if you love to run V3, I keep saying V3 Blackbeard, V2 Blackbeard, I would definitely finish them up, as they can help you beat a lot of very hard content with Blackbeard later. Next we have Vivi. Now Vivi, I kind of want to put her in very useful, but you could make the argument that she needs to be done ASAP. She's one of the newer treasure maps, so I feel like lots of people and some of the newer players probably already have her. But she changes adjacent slots to recovery, reduces chain lock and decreased chain multiply by 3 turns, then boost the crew attack by 1.75, which is very, very good. Now, if you use her special in the same turn as Desert Strider, you can get a 2 times attack boost to your crew, and then you obviously get 3 turns of the chain lock and chain growth manipulation reduction. So she has double special activation, obviously, and she has the special charge at the start of the quest by 5 turns. She has a crewmate ability where she makes recovery slots matching if the captain is quick or Psy. So that is very, very good. The downside to her is you have to use her special twice to actually get that 2 times attack. But at the same time, she's very useful because you can use it twice, and having a 1.75 times attack boost twice in a run can be very beneficial. I actually found it a really bit of a downside with her because, like, I wanted to use her with, like, a 1.75 times attack boost with someone like Shanks' crew. But then she removes the chain lock as it's, like, technically not a positive buff. So she can bite you in the backside as well, and that's why I don't think she deserves to be up this, like, in this top tier. But she is very useful, like, she's very useful. Alright, next we have Shira Hoshi, and Shira Hoshi is straight up pretty niche. She has a very unique effect where she actually gives you damage reduction and healing depending on how many enemies are present. So she halves damage taken and heals 8,000 at the end of the turn, depending on how many enemies are present. But that's all she does. Up to 6 turns, obviously, with 6 enemies. Now, I actually have used this Shira Hoshi on my free-to-play teams to beat the Garps challenge, because when you get to the stage with Dressrosa, there's 6 enemies, so you can actually get 6 turns of damage reduction, 6 turns of healing, and she works pretty well. So that's why I'm sort of not going to put her in never ever used, because you can beat hard content with her. She also heals crews 2 times recovery at the end of the turn, and boosts characters' attack by approximately 2 times, and the rest of the crew's attack by 3 times. So she's a fair, decent, like, rainbow leader, and can be sort of, like, buddied up with, like, some good int legends, as she is a cerebral striker as well. She has special bind removal as well, so, like, if you need that sort of special to survive and you get special minded, she can get around 5 turns of that. So she's not terrible, but I wouldn't even say she's handy to have, as, like, you rarely ever use her. She's just pretty niche, because when the situation's right and you can use her, she's very, very good. Ooh, next is my boy Luffy. I love this Luffy so much. He came out to help out Kid, and god did he do a hell of a job helping Kid. Obviously, he procs Kid's super typing as well. His special reduces Crew's attack down, bind, and despair duration by 4 turns. That is an awesome combination. Bind and despair, any unit that removes bind and despair at the same time, incredible combination. But also removes attack down for 4 turns is insane. Changes recovery, T&D, and unfavorable slots to own type, and then doubles Crew's slot effects for 1 turn. Absolutely bonkers good. Really, really good. He's actually a really good captain too. 3.25 Rainbow Captain, and reduces Crew's paralysis by 1 turn. He boosts Dex character's base stat by 56, and he completely removes paralysis on himself. He's just very, very good, especially if you have Kid and you're looking for, like, utility. This guy's a go-to. He's also named Luffy, which means you can use stuff like V1 Rayleigh as supports. You can use stuff like Invenkov as supports. You can use lots and lots of very, very good supports. So definitely get him done, as he's very, very good utility, and he's a Luffy unit. The Luffy tag sort of lets him down a little bit, but it definitely helps him out at the exact same time. Alright, next we have Treasure Map Zoro. Now, this is the other unit I was talking about when we were talking about Treasure Map Enel. And straight away, get him done ASAP. 100% get him done ASAP. He's very, very good. He reduces Threshold by 2 turns, and deals non-type damage to all enemies based on the number of times flying / attack is used. So the first time, he'll do 250,000, fixed damage to everyone, 500,000 on after choose once, and then 1,000,000 after 2 times. Now, he has double special activation and special reduction at the start of the quest. So when you're farming turtles or XP, like when Treasure Map's out and you're, like, farming XP to try and rank up, so that way you can use more Treasure Map runs, he's very, very good. And using the combination of him and Enel together just works so good in tandem, because he can use his special twice, reduces Enel's special by 10 turns, which is exceptional. But he also has the crewmate ability that he reduces character's special charge time by 1 turn every time a strength character uses a special. Because he's a Zoro unit as well, you can actually put him on the V2 Snake Man team, and that way you can trigger the super typing as well as just getting a lot of wave clearing. You actually get some nice utility as well with the threshold removal, which can be used as well. I was actually using him on the Wano Straw Hat event that's been floating around at the moment to farm that. So he's very, very good. Next we have Raiju. This Raiju is actually really, really good. She's a very, very good unit. If I could actually find her. Yeah, here she is. She changes block slots to character's own type, reduces all enemies' damage reduction and threshold by 5 turns, and if the captain is quick or int, poisons all enemies, and then boosts the damage dealt to poison by 1.75 for 3 turns. If you land 2 perfects, and that's all, she's going to poison all enemies the next turn. So, she's a self-proccing conditional boost that you can actually carry into the next stage, and for that, she's very useful. I wouldn't say you have to get her done ASAP, as obviously if the enemy's immune to poison, it kind of cucks her there. But she's got very, very good utility of removing threshold and damage reduction. I really wish she had defense up too, instead of the block orb removal. If she did, that would put her up here easily. But otherwise, she's just very useful. But she was only the last treasure map to release, so I haven't really got a gauge on how good she is. I am using her for this Kazuna though, and I do see her being very useful moving forward. I just don't see her being like super essential for the meantime compared to some of these other units up the top here. Besides maybe Shanks, to be honest. Shanks would definitely be at the end of this tier list here. 100% he would be. Wait. Why does that happen, guys? Can someone like put a comment in the comments and let me know why the hell every time I try and move a unit to the end here, it just reverts back to the first slot like an absolute donkey, because it's pissing me off like something fierce, and it's making it really hard if I want to like actually order units in the perfect order for what they should be. So look, it is what it is. But this Raiju, she's very good. Very good, and she is going to see a lot of play moving forward. I can definitely vouch for that. Alright, so the last treasure map unit before we get into these like special characters was Nami and Sanji. For some reason, Nami and Sanji just get so many damn units. They just love Nami and Sanji up there in Bandai headquarters. But this particular unit just finished about a week ago on OPTC Global, and they are very good. They're very useful. You could probably argue that you should get them done ASAP. Mainly for one reason. They reduce special bind by 5 turns, and they've also got the sailor ability that removes special bind by 5 turns. So they make this unit look like chump change, to be honest. But I don't know if they're like worthy of being on this. No, they probably are, to be honest. Yeah, I would probably say that they are. They completely remove stun, and they double fighter and free spirit characters slot effects for 1 turn. I wish it was an attack buff, to be honest. If it was fighter and free spirit attack buff, that would just be so goddamn strong, and would make this unit heaps better, especially because this Luffy already does orb boosting, so you could like partner them up together and get 2 times orbs, 2 times attack, and a whole bunch of utility, which would work really well. As to the final units on this, their switch ability as well. Their switch ability changes fighter and free spirit slots, unfavorable slots to their own type, and as a captain, they're actually pretty decent. 4 times captain that reduces special reverse by 2 turns for fighters and free spirits. As single units, though, they are double units, though, so their actual, like, captain abilities kind of suck when they're not in their dual form, but they still have that reduced special by 2 turns. But they also have fear resistance as well, which makes them very good. And actually, that's actually why I'm going to put them up here, yeah. Because they have fear resistance, if you get special blinded, and then you have the fear resistance, like on the Kazuna that's going on at the moment, they can remove that, and then you can remove the special blind with their special. So that makes them an exceptional unit. So I definitely try and farm them up. They're actually probably one of the higher end characters that I farm. These 2 units here, actually I would farm up first. Then I would probably... Can we move Shanks? Alright, Shanks is going to be last. Just pretend Shanks is last. But I would definitely farm these 2 up for speed farming. And then I would do these sort of units here. But this Big Mom is exceptionally strong as well. Actually, I'll probably do these 2 last as well. Just because speed farming isn't essential. Where these units are very good for end game content. The final units that we're going to talk about are the event characters that came out on Treasure Map. Now, I don't know if these characters are actually available in the shop or not, but they are on the tier list, so look, we may as well talk about them. So this Usopp, the one from Dressrosa, where he eats the Tabasco star, he's actually not terrible. He cuts crew's HP by half and delays all enemies for 1 turn, and then he removes all beneficial effects placed on the crew and reduces blind, despair, paralysis, a special blind for 1 turn. And he has special blind reduction for 2 turns. So, he's pretty niche. But he is an Usopp unit, which doesn't see too much play besides Uso Hachi. Plus, his artwork is just incredibly... they did such a good job with his artwork. you can definitely use him, but like you're gonna find pretty niche situations where like he's actually going to be good. And if you need to spend tickets on him, like I just wouldn't, to be honest. Next is this Garb. This Garb's actually pretty cool, to be honest. This Garb has two turns, a two like stage special, and to get this guy done, you need a lot of blue tickets, like a lot. His 12 turn cooldown is 50 times his attack and dex damage to one enemy. If the captain is a fighter or powerhouse, reduces their special charge by 1 turn, reduces all enemies' barriers and nullified damage by 1 turn, and then swaps characters out for captain for 1 turn. On his 16 turn cooldown, it goes up to 200 times his attack, reduces the special charge by 2 turns, and then reduces all enemies' barrier and nullified damage for 3 turns. So he's very useful just because of the barrier removal. And then he can become the captain for 2 turns, so you can carry that into the next stage. He has character special reverse by 2 turns. And if you become captain during the quest, he's a 4 times rainbow captain. So he's pretty good. He makes strength and dex slots have matching slot effects as well. You can definitely find uses for him. I'm actually probably going to put him in just useful, to be honest. Because like I have him and I just don't ever really use him. Barrier removal isn't prevalent, but like there's not a lot of units that actually do it. You know what? Let's put Shanks down here now I'm thinking about it. Like the more I think about it, the more he deserves to be very useful. So my bias is sort of overtaking the actual tier list, and I gotta be more level-headed for you guys, to be honest. So this Garp is useful. I don't think he's as useful as some of these units up the top here, but you could definitely find a spot for him and definitely use him depending on the content and what you need to be getting around. The next unit is Sanji, who came out as a treasure map reward for the when the Stampede treasure map was on. He's actually really good, and if you've got Bullet, like he's very handy to have. Even still, like he's probably just useful, to be honest. He deals 90 times his attack to one enemy, and if the captain is a strength, quick, or int, he boosts strength, quick, or int character's attack and slot effects for 2 turns. Now, getting an attack and an orb boost is really handy in one unit. He's a Sanji, so he has lots of very good supports. But he does it for 2 turns, which can be very, very handy by carrying it into the next stage. So that way, if they have an interrupt where they like give you a like shitty attack boost, he'll just remove it, basically. So he's pretty useful. The fact that you can get an attack and slot boost is his big upside. And on a bullet team, he's very, very handy to have. Like, very handy to have. And I use him more often than not when I am actually running bullet, because of the fact that you can get 2 turns of it, and he's a Sanji unit. So that way you can just use a lot of very, very good supports. The last character we have on this list is Bon Clay. This guy came out as like an interrupt throughout the run, and was just sort of a meme character at the time. He's going straight into pretty niche. Mainly because like I've never actually used this character, but when you can use this character, I feel like he's just going to be really awesome. He deals 222,222 non-type damage to one enemy, and when the special is launched, if the enemy has attack up status, he boosts Crew's attack by 2.25, which is very good. If the enemy has damage reduction status, he reduces damage by 80% for 2 turns. And if they have threshold, he massively reduces the portion of each enemy's damage dealt that exceeds 5,000 for 2 turns. And all of these stat effects are stackable. So you can hypothetically get all 3 of these in 1 turn. So when you can actually get this guy to work, he's actually going to be ridiculously cool. Like, ridiculously cool. So, I've never actually used him per se, but I feel like when you can use him, he's just going to be a lot of fun. So, there you guys go. That was my treasure map characters tier list. It actually turned out, like, fairly deep, like, fairly nicely in the way of, like, how characters and stuff were actually set out. We do have, like, quite a good array of characters in, the top tier in what you guys should be getting done, and then like just as many good characters in the very useful. From like useful down, like down here, these are the characters that I wouldn't really focus on too much until you have all of these characters done. As for like the order of what characters you should be doing, or in my opinion anyway, these 2 characters here are probably the 2 most essential characters, but it also depends on like what you have in your box, depending on what content that you're struggling to beat. It's depending on what actual character you should do first. This Nami, incredibly good for garbage challenges. Like, this Robin is incredibly good for garbage challenges. Treasure Map Big Mom's just incredibly good all round. These guys are great utility. These guys are great for speed farming, making your time a little bit faster. Same with this guy here. But yeah, this sort of tier here is the one you want to be focusing on, and then the very useful tier is what I would be focusing on after that. As for everything else, These two tiers down here, like these two tiers you could pretty much just skip, to be honest. But if you do have like some good units that these guys could work with, or you have some really good ideas, slap them in the comment section below because I'd love to hear them. But that's gonna wrap this one up today, guys. If you did enjoy this one, make sure to belt that like button, and if it did help you out in any way, and you are new to the channel, hit the big red subscribe button too, and if you want to stay up to date with everything that I post, hit that little bell icon so YouTube tells you when I post my stuff. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. That is the most important thing. I thank you guys for watching as always, and I will catch you all in the next one. Lates!